So I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of nervous about this. I've never done a screencast before, but we're gonna give it a try, and hopefully I can put my own little touch on what a screencast can be. So stay tuned. Welcome to Notes with Mazock. You like that intro? Cool. If you didn't, well, cool. But anyway, back to all seriousness. Remember, I hope you guys are taking notes as you go through this, because the Middle East quiz that is scheduled for Monday next week is going to be open note. And what that means is these notes that you take through this PowerPoint can be used on the quiz. So make sure you are taking notes. And let's go through this. First of all, our unit's going to be summed up as the Middle East. And that's a combination of 2 chapters in the textbook combined into 2 days in a PowerPoint. And that just shows you that this area is kind of important, but we're going to kind of fly through it because, well, we got to get to a certain point before the I-step tests begin. So, first of all, when we talk about the Middle East, let me pull up the map of the world here so you can see this. Planet Earth. Ain't she pretty? But anyway, going forward, here's the United States over here. I got my pointer basically on where Fort Wayne, Indiana is. We're going to be going over to the Eastern Hemisphere into this area that I'm about to zoom in on over here. Eastern Mediterranean, Chapter 8, what they're talking about is Turkey and this whole area. Chapter 9 is this area. But just starting out Chapter 8, we're talking about Turkey, how's that for a country? Israel, Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Turkey. I don't think they include Cyprus, but just so you know, Cyprus is out here in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. So this is the area we're talking about. Let's go back to the notes and see what I wrote down as actual countries. The countries in the Middle East, they do include Cyprus. Countries in the Middle East, again, start writing these down. Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Cyprus, and Israel. And this is kind of where Europe and Asia are split because of this waterway. And we'll go back to Google Maps to show you that. The Dardanelles, the Bosporus, and the Sea of Marmara all separate Europe from Asia at this spot. Again, this is Turkey right here. And this is the area that it's talking about. You have the Sea of Marmara. I kind of zoomed in too quickly. Let me zoom out a little bit. The Sea of Marmara, the Bosporus Strait, and the Dardanelles are all right here that separate the area. You see a major city right here known as Istanbul. That city had a former name as Constantinople in the past also. This piece of land right here throughout history was very valuable. Very valuable. If you think about it, we talked about a certain trade route that connected Europe and Asia. Take a look at either go through this cold area of Russia in the wintertime, or the only other route, again, through that tiny little area. Silk Road, right? So this area in Turkey was very valuable and has a lot of history because of that. They lumped Turkey in with the rest of the eastern coast of the Mediterranean. See, here's the Mediterranean Sea. East coast, or the eastern edge of the Mediterranean Sea, is where these countries are. So back to the notes. The Jordan River is a river that is in Jordan, but it begins in Syria. So how's that for complicated? But no, the Jordan River is a very famous river in this area. The Dead Sea, the world's saltiest lake. If you can see a picture there on the top right, that is of the Dead Sea, right where I have the mouse. It's so salty, as a matter of fact, that you can float in it just by being in it because of how dense the water is. The Pontus and Taurus Mountains are in Turkey. And here we are, the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. If you remember from previous information, that's the sign of where Mesopotamia was with the ancient river civilizations. Climate and vegetation. This area is mostly dry because of several deserts. The Syrian deserts and the Negev deserts. Not many plants to grow in the deserts. Why? Well, not very much rainfall. However, by the Mediterranean coast, they have a Mediterranean climate. Those are some clever meteorologists coming up with some names there. Sorry, that's my sarcasm. But anyway, very few areas have very much vegetation. Now there's a link here for the Negev Desert, and let's take a look at the video that talks about the Negev Desert. This is the beauty of screencasts. And I'll just turn up the volume here. Hopefully it's not too loud. Be prepared to have to turn the volume down on your computer because it might be too loud. Don't worry, I'll try to get the volume to be stable once we get started. Whoops. I messed up. I have the wrong song going here for a second. Hold on, let me fix it. So yeah, I had the Bee Gees playing in the background. I forgot to turn that off, but now we should be good. I'm going to turn the volume up and just take a look at this video about the Negev Desert.
The Negev Desert in the southern part of Israel covers about half the country. This is Simon, the camel driver. He has chosen to live here, far from civilization.
Simon, are you a Bedouin? But I am a Bedouin by heart, yes. What does it mean? I think it means to have freedom in the desert.
He said he was a Bedouin, which we're going to get to in a second.
You need freedom in the desert? Very much, yes. What is to be a Bedouin? To be a Bedouin today is it's quite different from some time before. Why? Why? Because times are changing and the simple life has been forgotten. This has been trained to take people like this, yeah?
However inhospitable the Negev Desert appears, people have lived here for thousands of years. Nomadic tribes roam the land in small groups looking for food and water.
So anyway, that was a little bit about the Negev Desert, just to get a visual of that. Notice not many clouds, and just not a lot of life looks like growing naturally. Anyway, moving on. Some of the natural resources, again, another area where water is the most valuable resource. I mean, we don't think about it that much here because of how much rain we have, how much snow we get, but in different areas of the world, they just don't get water very regularly. And when they do have it, it's not very clean because it's been sitting around for a while. But again, most people work as farmers or nomads, as you saw with the Bedouin man there. But they can only work in certain areas. And obviously because that's only where the water is. For money, these countries export minerals such as asphalt, phosphates, and mineral salts. So Turkey. A little bit of the history here. Had so many invasions. These are just a list of different areas that had control of the Turkish area at one point. The Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, the Seljuk Turks, the Ottoman Empire, and finally Kemal Ataturk, which also made this area a democracy. You can see the Ottoman Empire, which was Islamic, also known as a Muslim empire, had control of this area. Let me go back to the map to explain why. And again, it's all about the Silk Road, because the Silk Road trade route went through there. And if you controlled this little tiny land bridge, let me zoom in again. If you had control of this area, the city of Istanbul, right here, and you had a bridge, a single bridge that crossed the water here, it was going to be very difficult for you to go across without having to pay to go across. So if you had control of this area, you had all sorts of money coming your way. That is until people started sailing around Africa to get goods from Asia. Nonetheless, though, this area was very valuable for a very long time, just like Central Asian countries were over here when we mentioned them in the past for the same reason. Kemal Ataturk was a very famous Turkish guy because he started the modernizing of Turkey, adopting Western ways, that's like American or European ways, allowing women to vote, adopting the metric system, banning the fez, which is this type of hat, which was a traditional hat that all men had to wear. So Turkey became very modernized, and there's a picture of the flag on this next slide. You notice it's got a religious symbol as their flag, the crescent moon and star, which is for Islam, if you remember. Turkey's people, again, called Turks, very creative. And half of Turkey is westernized and modernized, while the other half is still pretty rural and traditional. So they're in the process of becoming modernized. Today, the capital is Istanbul. They are a secular state, which means, secular state, you might want to write this down. Secular state means that they have a difference between their government and their religion. Their religion is not like practiced within the government. It's separate. Like the United States is also a secular state. We do not have a religion that influences our government. Has many natural resources. 35% of people are farmers, and they have water dams which allow Turkey to have water, but not neighboring countries. A lot of countries are a little upset with Turkey for stealing the water. And now we're going to have a little bit of a viewing of what the capital of Istanbul looks like. This city also used to be known as Constantinople, but you can just see this area is pretty wealthy.
Hey, this is your travel host, Naomi. I'd like to guide you through the top 5 attractions of Istanbul. Number 5, Bosphorus River. Take a cruise on the Bosphorus River. See many amazing sights. A great way to see the city in action. Number 4, Topkapi Palace. Sultans lived here for nearly 400 years. Consists of hundreds of rooms adorned with a large number of artifacts. Number 3, Hagia Sophia, a famous Istanbul landmark. Initially a church and then turned into a mosque. It exhibits remarkable
Civilization fans, you might recognize this building, the Hagia Sophia.
diverse architecture. Number 2, Grand Bazaar, one of the world's oldest landmarks. Millions have visited this Grand Bazaar. And number 1, Blue Mosque, named due to thousands of blue tiles and one of the few mosques to have 6 minarets, an iconic feature of Istanbul. Keep watching our travel series. Ciao!
And we're going to go back to the PowerPoint here. Next one of the countries up is Syria. Syria's capital is Damascus. They are a socialist country. They have a mix of communism and democracy. 90% of the people identify themselves as Arab, mostly Muslims, but there are some Jews and Christians in this area also. You might have heard about a revolution that's happening in this area where the people are trying to overthrow their government, almost in the form of a coup d'etat. Moving on, though, Lebanon, the capital city is Beirut. After World War I, Lebanon was owned by France, and this has affected the culture there. They have a lot of French-speaking people. They have a lot of Christianity brought over also by the French. Half of the people, in Lebanon are Muslim, while the other half, roughly, are Christian. They have fought many religious wars in this country because a lot of times, unlike India, though, a lot of religions have trouble getting along in the same spot. They all want to have the same control of the same areas. Fighting between Lebanon and Syria and Lebanon and Israel, however, are very common. I think this is where we're going to stop this video clip for the sake of time. So I guess I would watch Middle East clip 2 as soon as you can to continue where we left off. But anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed this, and let's enjoy our rest of our notes, I guess. I don't know what else to say. So thank you very much.